All right, so Brian Teyssier here. Super excited to have Rob the House Guy, Rob Gillespie, a fellow Northerner from
Cleveland, Ohio.
All right, so I am following his footsteps and working my way down. And we were just talking earlier before the podcast started about winter, and he's like, what winter? I didn't even know we had a winter.
Right.
So anyway, we're going to get right into it. We have so much knowledge, decades worth of knowledge. Rob has been doing, I'm going to let him talk about it, but flips and investments and buy and holds and wholesales and commercial stuff. Rob, you know, anytime I bring a guest onto the show, for me, it's super critical that they have some sort of street cred. So I don't know if you're a little, hesitant on talking about awards and boards you sit on, everything else, but we want to make sure the audience, these guys out here, understand why they should listen to what the hell you're saying. So give me a little about me section. Tell me who you are, what you've done, and why the hell you're here.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me on, Brian. Well, I'm Rob, or Rob the House Guy, if you know me from the Cleveland market. And for the past almost 25 years, about 24 years, I think it turns 25 in May sometimes, I've been involved in more than 1,000 real estate transactions. Now, as that, I am an investor, not like my counterpart Brian over here that is the realtor, but I'm just an investor. I've always been the buyer and seller and turnover guy of real estate properties instead of the listing guy. On top of that, I'm also the president of the Greater Cleveland Real Estate Investors Association for years, and recently become the president of the Global Real Estate Investors Association. And just been involved in everything from buy, fix, and sells to wholesaling to rentals to commercial turnarounds to private lending. Just about every part of the real estate investment space I have been involved in, except for the coaching section, where you see a lot of people these days that bought a book, read it, and then a year later they've become the expert to regurgitate everything they've read to you.
Pain point, dude. In 90 seconds of just you talking, I've already got like 6 questions. So first off, and I think you have in your questions, is why aren't you a real estate agent? Why do you not get your license?
That's a great question. Actually, I was going to get my license at one time.
In Ohio?
In Ohio.
Okay.
In Ohio. And I went through the point. This was actually after I've already been doing it for, I guess, around 19, 20 years.
That's crazy.
I was selling options. I'd lock up an option. I would sell an option.
For those, let's treat the audience as if they don't know what the heck we're talking about. So let's take a step back. What is an option?
Okay. An option is basically a piece of paper that is giving me the opportunity to purchase a piece of property at a set price for a set period of time. So when I say flipping the option, let's just say that I've used a magical $100,000 house, and for Miami crowds, that doesn't exist. Let's call it the $100,000 house. So let's say there's a $100,000 home, and I can get an option from Brian for $70,000, saying in the next 12 months, Brian, I can purchase this home for $70,000. So when I flip that option, what I may do is I may call up another investor and say, hey, Mr. Investor, I have a $100,000 home. I can make it available to you for $80,000. Would you be interested? And there's like, yes, that's fantastic. $20,000 off sticker. Fantastic. Well, you're not actually buying the home. You're buying my option to buy the home. So give me $10,000 for this piece of paper, and then go on. And now they have that option to purchase this home for $80,000, and now they cash you out.
So it's basically doing like a real estate agent's job, part of it, really. I mean, you don't have to do whole MLS and marketing and lockbox and all that.
Oh, well, that's interesting you say that. So this is leading me into the story of how I almost became an agent. So in doing this, and actually for the Florida crowd that would watch this, that was very big back before the real estate crash, was flipping the options and contracts on condos, the new construction development going on down here in the Miami market. And it carried on to the north, and we did it on just normal properties, not the high-rise mansions. And as I was going through and doing this, the Department or Division of Real Estate in Ohio said, whoa, hold on. When you're flipping options like this, you really don't have any skin in the game. Yeah, you might have $100 for an option deposit, but you're kind of acting like an unlicensed realtor. So they called me on the carpet for that. They said, hey, you're flipping options. We're not cool with that. So I grabbed my attorney and I grabbed all my files and I came walking in. I said, I have nothing to hide. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Let's take a look. So we started going through things. And I quickly realized the division of real estate doesn't quite understand it either. They're like, well, you can flip the option. You just can't mention the address. I go, so if I don't mention the address, I just mention the address on the option, that's okay. And they said, yeah, but you can't show a picture of it. But if I show a picture, and after about 2 hours of them talking around each other, not knowing,
right.
I finally said, guys, just for lack of time, I go, if I became an agent, would that make you happy? Are you willing to do that? And I said, absolutely, guys. I just got to get back to work. That's fine. So we packed up our ball, and on the way there, I signed up for the accelerated class for 2 weeks to go into being a real estate agent. And fast forward, I go and take 2 weeks to my schedule. I get in there. And what is the topic of conversation you think that the instructor had? He started talking about selling options.
What?
So I'm like, I have a question, sir. I go, I was told that without a license, that's illegal in the state of Ohio. He goes, who the heck would tell you that? And I'm like, that's what I kind of thought too. That's what my attorney kind of thought. However, the division of real estate thought differently. He goes, no, completely inaccurate. And then it boils down to this. You have to have two things if you're going to do this. If you're going to lock up a contract just for the intent on selling it, you have to have one, the intent on actually closing it to begin with, or you have to have the ability to actually close on it. So if you were going to go put a contract on $1 million building and you didn't have access to $1 million, then you're acting like a realtor without a license.
Right.
So I just said, fine. I finished my classes and I said, guess what, guys? From now on, I have the intent and the ability, and I close probably 9 out of 10 things. I very rarely sell the option. I'll exercise my option and resell it now.
Wow.
So there's my long way around the block on why I'm not an agent, how I almost became one. But I could still do it because I have a 10-year window, I believe, from the time I take my classes to sit for the test. I just haven't sat for the
And
test.
that's in Ohio.
That's in Ohio.
So another question I had whenever you were talking about your, what you do and what you've done is, are you in? I know you're physically in Florida. Are you investing in Florida in the same capacity or any capacity as Ohio?
No, not to the capacity of Ohio. Ohio has been my market for so long, and I'm so, in the trenches there, and my phone literally just dings all day with opportunities.
Wow.
With down here, I'm still trying to get my feet wet, and I do have some deals I'm working on down here right now, but nothing compared to the volume I'm still doing up north.
So the goal is to ultimately move more business down here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now down here is very different. It's
right.
It's not about the quantity; it's the quality. Where up there, I'll have to do 10 houses for the profit to do one down here.
Amen, amen. That's why I got my real estate license down here. Is I'm doing 51 a week up there, right? I'm making X amount of dollars. These guys down here are selling 3 houses. They're on their paddle boards all day. I can see them on Instagram. I know what you're doing. You're not working, right? And they're making as much as me. Funny little story. There's an agent in my office, 29 years old, right? And I just met him, and we do luxury and ultra luxury in our office only. I'm like, so, my volume is 20 million a year in Pittsburgh. I'm like, so what's your volume? He's like 80 million.
I know.
It's mind blowing, and they don't even work that much.
To echo that, and actually, I'll mention off camera just for non-disclosure purposes on film, but a mutual friend we have had that same conversation with me. We were at an event a couple weeks ago, and he's in real estate, and he's like a combination. If Brian and I had a child, this is who it would be. He's an investor and an agent, so he wears both hats. And he starts talking about his year, and he's going, I did this and this and this. And he goes, I'm at 41 million closed business for the year. This is March. Oh. He goes, I'm at 41 million. And he goes, I've got another 78 potential on the books. Wow. He goes, Rob, you got to be crushing it. I'm like, well, I felt pretty good until this conversation. I go, no, I don't want to talk about it anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave the event and go back to work.
Yeah, right.
Because I got to get going.
I need to make a bunch of calls.
Yeah. It's like, wow. And he was a young kid. Again, he's 15 years younger than I am.
I'm telling you, the younger demographic, and I've said this before in Pittsburgh on panels and stuff, like they came into the market and it's this hot, so they know nothing else other than this.
Right.
Where, I've been doing this since 2007, you've been doing it in the 90s. We've been in all kind of markets, buyers markets. There were some sellers that are giving away big screen TVs. I've seen in Florida, they're giving away Mercedes with the houses because they couldn't get rid of them.
Right.
And now in Pittsburgh, we don't even put a sign in the yard. Sometimes I can barely get a lockbox on the house and I've already got 25 offers. So these young kids think that's the way it is. So there's going to be eventually, there's going to be a leveling.
Exactly. And I had this conversation with an agent the other day. And, he's telling me what he's up against to get these listings. He said, there's agents out there just saying, well, I'm going to list it for free. They go, I want to charge you because they want to stick that sign in the yard. They want to have that listing to drive traffic. And I'm like, man, it's not always going to be like this. And you don't want to take the person that's just going to do it for free. Believe me, because they're not really trying to move your house. They're just hoping someone comes along and puts an offer on. You want someone that has knowledge and knows what they're doing. Would you want a surgeon saying, hey, man, I'll do open heart surgery for free. Don't worry about it. No, I'm just trying to, like learn the business a little bit.
Just want to get my sign in your chest. That's all.
I want you to get a tattoo that says that I saved your life. No, you want an expert.
So let's get back to the task at hand, and that was you wanted to talk about collaboration. But before we get into that, let's talk about a little bit more about that background. What got you into real estate investing? What made that decision? I'm sure you didn't go through, elementary school, junior high, thinking I'm going to be a fireman or a real estate investor.
Ironically, that is funny. Ironically, so I was raised by a single mother, and my mom was awesome. She was me, and my mom and dad. I had a great relationship with both of them, so it's not like it was a single mother and dad was gone. I loved them both. I had a relationship with both of them. They had to split up at a young age. And my mom, from years earlier, she had a friend that was a landlord. And this landlord, landlady, however you want to call it, she might have had 8 properties or something, nothing crazy. But my mom always admired this lady, saying, owning properties, that's what you need to do when you grow up. So I was only in 8th grade, and my mom was telling me, when you grow up, you need to buy a double meaning a 2-unit, a duplex. Right. There was a lot of those in Cleveland, the up and downs, and live at home still and just rent that out.
That's a smart thing. I've had people do that.
Yeah, so she told me all about this. So I was in 8th grade, and I was telling people, I'm going to be a landlord. I'm going to be a landlord someday.
That's pretty slick.
And, we used to go dumpster diving, and we'd build these forts and stuff out in the woods, and my friends would make fun of me and say, yeah, this is going to be one of your rental properties. This is going to look like. And we were just laughing about it and everything else. But I went on to go to work. And I worked in a tool and die shop. I was actually a tool and die maker.
Oh, cool.
Which wasn't bad. I made good money for, 20-year-old kid. I was making $50,000 a year in full benefits and 401k.
In the 90s.
In the 90s. Yeah, and it was cool. And literally, I didn't even have anything to spend money on. I'm living at home, and I'd bought a double, and I'm stacking my paychecks in my toolbox. I don't have to do all this money. I just wait and save for my house. It's very easy. And it's easy to say, okay, buy a double, live at home, rent a house, but unless I want to live in my mom's basement forever and I have to actually turn it into a business, the what isn't enough to get me there. I need the how. I need to figure out, how am I really going to do this? And that was, unfortunately, the part that I was missing as a young guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I kept on going. And
did you join any? You're the captain of different chapters. Did you seek out mentors or coaching?
Well, we're getting to this. We're getting there. We're getting there. So of course, my first mentors were these immigrants I'd work with, because I would work on night shift instead of day shift, because I figure, okay, I don't want to give the best part of my life up to the company. I'd rather work at night. At the end of the day, I could work with all these immigrants that buy all of these investment properties, and they're going to teach me. Well, they taught me how to pour concrete and put roofs on and do everything else. I'd work with them. I'm digging foundations with them, and they're telling me how they bought everything else, and I just admired the heck out of all of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. This is so cool. You own properties. I want to buy more. So fast forward, I kept buying. So I bought 1 double, then 2, then bought 2 doubles on 1 lot, then a single. And I got to about 13 all at one time.
Wow.
And I still remember the day. I was a 3rd-year apprentice in tool and die making, because it's a 4-year program. Because I put so many hours in. I literally was maxed out on my pay until I actually became a journeyman. I was working so many hours during the day with these other guys. I was sleeping 2 hours a night, and I would legit do this. I would sit at a red light on the way to work. I'd put my car in park, and I'd nod my head back. I'd wait for someone to beep the horn, and then I'd put my car in park, and I would go. Until one time I didn't wake up, and I had this long line of traffic laying on their horn. So I got to work that day, and I still remember, I look across the shop, and I see this guy there, and he's been there for 50 years at this same thing. And because it's a union shop, I'm like, us Northerners, we all know about unions and stuff. Yeah. I'm like, I know he is $1 an hour ahead of me. And I'm like, man, I go, this is it. I go,
right.
I go, $1 is all I have to look forward to.
Right.
I'm like,
ceiling.
Yeah, this isn't cool. So I walked over to the shop supervisor. I go, hey man, I love the opportunity I've had here the last few years. 7 years I've been here or something. It's been awesome. I appreciate it, but I think I want to put my 2 weeks notice in. And they go, what do you mean? I mean, you're a journeyman. You're going to be a journeyman next year. You're going to be this. You're going to be this. It's going to be awesome. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't think it's for me. He goes, well, when do you want to do it? You want to think about it? I go, oh, I thought about it. We can go down to human resources now. And we went down there. I quit. And actually the next day, the boss came up to me and he said, you know what? He goes, my dad and I talked about, his dad was a German. He goes, we talked about you last night. He's like, that's so cool. He goes, we both wish we had the balls to do this when we were younger. He goes, now we're stuck here because they have the golden handcuffs.
Right.
And I'm like, and this isn't like a, hey, quit your job tomorrow type thing, but
correct.
Because now the story's gonna get ugly.
So my main takeaway so far is when I'm at a red light here in Florida, and the person in front of me isn't on Instagram. They're sleeping because they worked really hard and they're trying to make it in life. So if somebody's ahead of you, go be a little easy on them.
Yeah, this is before the cell phone days. So then I quit my job. I was told my mom bawled, cried, told me I'm wrecking my life, I'm ruining it, this wasn't part of the plan.
That's all they know.
Yeah, it's like you should be living at home, you have all these rental properties, you have all this money coming in, it's great, you have this great job, you have retirement plans. I'm like, yeah, I know. So she bawled and said I was wrecking my life. And
I still get that today. My mom's like, what are you doing in Florida? You're wrecking your life.
My mom thinks I'm in Florida. Like, I just lay on the beach.
Like,
yeah,
my parents too.
Like, I've been to the beach like twice since I've been here.
It's not as great as you think it is.
You know why? Because you can't see your computer screen on the beach.
That's exactly why. They fixed that if there's a problem.
Oh, that's a problem. Then I'll be sitting there with a desk on the beach. But so then I kind of had no idea how to run a business. I'm like, because remember, I was like a welder, tool and die maker, just a small town kid. I'm like, I don't know anything about P&L. I don't know anything about really running the business. I know nothing about how to buy houses. I called the real estate agent I was buying from the time. He's like, you're an idiot. You can't buy houses anymore. You don't have a W-2. I'm like, oh, yeah, I never thought about that.
Oh, wow.
I really can't do it. So then I go, well, maybe I'll sell some of my houses. I'm like, well, I can't sell them because I'm maxed out on everything. It's like all my houses, I paid retail for them.
I was going to ask you, so how are you financing all these houses whenever you were employed?
Because I had a lot of money.
Multiple mortgages?
Yeah, multiple mortgages. I had lots of mortgages coming in. That was back in the subprime days before, it wasn't. Yeah, well, I didn't have that stated because I was full doc. I had full doc. I had a 401k. I had money in the bank. I had my rentals coming in. Everything was dialed in. It was clean for that.
Right.
And it just worked out. But then when I go to sell them, it was a little more challenging. So I realized, well, I don't want to fail. It's like I just quit my job. I've got these houses. I'm really not making the money now that I was making. So then I started figuring out, well, how can I start buying and selling houses? And this is where it comes into the REIA group, the Real Estate Investors Association. Someone told me about this group that was about an hour away that a bunch of people just like me met and just talked about their properties.
Is this national or just local?
This is just a local REIA group in Ohio, in Akron, Ohio.
Okay.
And I said, wow, this would be kind of cool. Maybe I should go check this place out. And I get there, and it's just kind of like the Island of Misfit Toys or something. Like, wow, everyone's just like me.
Yeah.
It's like, you have how many properties? And there's guys like you. It's like, well, I have 80, I have 40, I have 2 apartment buildings. I'm like, wow, everyone
it's like college for investors.
Yeah. And it's like, and it took me from that place of, instead of the late night television thing saying, buy my course and get rich, to just real people sitting around the breakfast table. We'd have coffee together like the day after and stuff. And the different meetings, so let's meet for coffee and just saying, hey, Rob, don't do this and do this. And man, you got to be careful. Don't finance too many properties at this loan to value because you're going to get buried in this market because they're not appreciating fast enough. And I just didn't really know, because all I thought about was, the 30-year pay down, you're going to gain appreciation over the years. You don't think about starting so far ahead of the game by buying that far below. So my first deal was a private lender there, had bought a property, and he lent money on a property in Cleveland, Ohio, and he was in Akron about an hour away, and he said, Rob, this guy stopped paying me. And he goes, he stopped paying me. You think you can, help me unload this property? Give me the property back. I go, well, what do you need for it? And he's like, well, he goes, I need to get $8,000 for it. 8? I'm like paying 80 for my house. What do you mean 8? Well, so I went over there and I strapped on my bulletproof vest because I realized I needed to. I go in this big gutted house, and I basically found a way to take it and get it for 8, and I sold it for 10.
Was somebody in the house?
No, it was vacant.
Oh, okay.
It was vacant, and bought it for 8 and sold it for 10. Then I was like, wow, I'm on my way. It's like I just made $2,000, and $2,000 to a young kid that just came out and making $50,000 a year is like, whoa. So then I bought one for 10 and sold it for 12, and I took a paper on the second, which I never got paid that $2,000 yet to this day.
Taking paper means?
Taking paper, I'm sorry, it means a seller carryback mortgage. I took a mortgage on that. He paid the $10,000 to acquire the property. My $2,000 fee I did not get. And I'm actually still friends with the guy to this day. I never chased him down for it because it was my early deals, and I've done lots and lots of other deals with this guy in the meantime. So.
I say, feel free to mention his name. We'll get him.
he's a great guy. But anyhow. So then I did one that I bought one for 10 and sold it for 20. And then I was like, whew, this is like, I've discovered lightning at this point. I'm like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. And then it was off to the races. And then I was going, and then 07, 08.
Well, what about the taxes? The tax man cometh? Were you paying your taxes?
Yeah.
Capital gains and all that?
Yeah, it was just a lot of ordinary income type stuff.
Okay.
Just because it's just, they're not long term. You're not taking depreciation. You're not.
So there's no capital gains on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Yeah, you're not holding it long enough for that sort
Right.
of stuff. A lot of that sort of stuff, you're just you're getting it out of just ordinary income. It's just a flipping business, basically.
Right.
And that's where you could do well if you're in the business like that, and you're holding a huge hotel or something to kind of offset with depreciation and so forth.
Interesting.
But it's all just transactional stuff, just as if you owned a grocery store selling jugs of milk.
Interesting.
Or a car. I would say a car dealership is more like it.
Yeah,
It's like a car dealer, and a lot of buy here, pay here type stuff. We
Interesting.
do a lot of the financing out of there as well for people.
Fascinating. So, got so many other questions. We actually have something in Pittsburgh called ACRE, American Congress of Real Estate. And I don't know if that's international or not, but it sounds like the RIA thing for you, where 20 years ago I went there whenever I was, completely blank to the world, didn't know what was going on. And they would have, people that were wholesaling and trying to sell you stuff and buy. And I was so apprehensive. I didn't trust them because I didn't really know what the angle was. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you want to flip that property? Why are you selling it to me? Is there something I don't know about it? And they would ship people and you have to pay. They come in for the weekend. Successful people, probably like you. They pay you to come in, and you would have a presentation over the weekend, and we'd learn all kind of stuff on it. To this day, it might be 20 years later, I still remember a lot of that stuff. I never put an offer in 50%. I always put your offer in 50% of the ask price in a different market. When I started flipping houses 15 years ago, that was my standard. Like, how'd you come up with this number? I took this real estate class, and they said I should go in 50% under. And we used to have stated income.
Oh, yeah.
So we would get all that money on the loan, and then Home Depot and Lowe's would have no interest, no payments with our credit card for a year. I would walk out of there with flatbeds full of stuff, pay nothing for it, install in the house, flip the house, get the house sold within a year, pay off that no interest.
Right.
You don't have to pay any money, and then they stopped doing it.
Well, yeah, it's a very different world now. I mean, actually, I heard recently even Home Depot started capping the military benefits. I just heard that last night. Someone said the 10% for military caps at $400 for the year now. Because one of my buddies, he's in there. He's like, I'm at Lowe's today, and I'm like, why? What happened to Home Depot? And he's like, they stopped me at $400 on savings. I'm like, well, that's kind of surprising. It's like, especially since Lowe's is so about the military and stuff and supporting the giving 10%.
Changing world.
But as a side note, nobody coming into the Florida market, take the advice of offering 50 cents at a dollar. You're not going to get a lot accepted in this market.
Yeah, that's true. Don't listen to what I say. Now, when it comes to selling real estate, high-end real estate, you want to listen to what I say, but
Yes.
Anything else, forget it. So let's talk about what's your favorite type of investment? Or do you have a couple questions? Do you have a flipping construction crew? How many rentals do you have? A little more background on what you got going.
That's funny you say that. That's traditionally what most people believe is,
Right.
is the when you hear about like flip this house, flip that house,
Right.
and Property Brothers, all these other shows out there. The main thing they always show is going in there, taking sledgehammers to walls, tearing out the kitchens, painting, putting flooring down. We put this travertine floor, now look. And they put the price and sold in 15 minutes and everything else. It's just crazy, all this stuff, and the profits. That's just because that's what most people can comprehend of what flipping is all about.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's like they can't comprehend. We do more financial fixes than we do physical fixes on properties. So, for instance, we'll go in and take a property that might have tax liens on it. It might have back taxes on it. It might have mortgages. And we have to do quiet title. Quiet title is like someone's on. I'll just use real examples. A real example is right now. You're going to fall off your... Well, you're in Pittsburgh, so you get the numbers we deal with still.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing the Alquip and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a property right now we're looking at picking up. We went contract yesterday. It's a 5-unit, and it's in Bedford, Ohio.
Heard it?
Yeah, Bedford, Ohio. 5 units. It's bringing in $600 a unit, so that's $3,000 a month or $36,000 per year. So when analyzing a property, I look at, okay, so my monthly, add all my monthlies up, and if it's going to give me, 5 units at $600 a month, that's $3,000 times 12 is $36,000. I take that 50%, I cut that in half, and that will give me my net operating income without a mortgage on it. There's no debt service. Debt service is just a mortgage, principal and interest payment. I should net, if I paid cash for that, I should net that amount, that $18,000 a year. So now, if I wanted to make 10% on my money, I would buy that property at up to $180,000, and I can make 10% of my money by owning that 5 unit. if I'm going to flip it to Brian, because he wants to make 10% of his money, I need to buy that for about $130,000 and then sell it to Brian for $180,000 and make my $50,000, and he can make 10% of his money and I move on to the next deal. So that is the plan. We have it in contract right now for I think $95,000. It was $94, $95. I'm paying $5,000 to a guy that brought it to me. And then another guy that brought it to me, he's going to make a couple $1,000. So I'll get to about 102, 103, somewhere in there. But now here is why I get the deal, no one else is getting it. Because it's complicated. This guy has a recorded land contract down there from someone he sold to before that's in default. The guy is clearly in default. He's not current on the real estate taxes. He's not current on the payments. He made sporadic payments. And he is out, and now he is pretty non-responsive. So now being non-responsive, he really can't, because it is on a recorded land contract, he can't transfer clear title. I couldn't get title insurance. And what title insurance means to everyone that's watching out there is when you buy a property, that's why I use a third party, an attorney or a title company, because they will go through and they research everything on public records to say, okay, is everything kosher on this property and it's all looking good? And they give a little stamp of approval and they charge you so much money for a title insurance policy that says, yes, it's all good, and if there's ever a problem, don't worry, we're going to cover that problem for you. So,
big business.
Yeah, it's a huge business. Yeah. Especially when you get in these houses down here, the property. Because really, it's almost kind of like doing a physical checkup on somebody and giving them life insurance. And it's very simple because public records are very easily accessible for real estate transactions. So it's pretty simple and cut and dry that if everything's been transferred well over the years, it's going to be very insurable. Especially, they insured every transfer along the way, so all they really have to look for is the insurance of the transactions up to the last insurance policy. So this one has a recorded land contract. Well, in the state of Ohio, which I don't know Florida law like I do Ohio law, but if you have more than 20% equity or more than 5 years, it's not as easy as just evicting the person off of the land contract. You have to foreclose the person off the land contract. So it gets a little more complicated. So I said, no problem. I'm going to take this and I'm going to deal with this individual. So I reached out and made a call yesterday, and I shot an email yesterday. And by the way, the person on land contract is in California, they're not even in Ohio. So our next step will be to go ahead and front a couple bucks for the seller that's in the 70s and say, hey, we're going to pay for this, and have our attorney actually initiate a foreclosure and send it to them out there. Then a follow-up call will come from me saying, hey, listen, man, they're foreclosing you out. You're going to go away. I can still put a couple bucks in your pocket. We can just get rid of this whole mess. You don't have any foreclosure on your record or anything. I help you clean this up, but help me help you. And that's where I'll get involved, and I'll get the thing and I'll pay the guy a couple grand or something to get a release of land contract, and then I'll close it, then I'll sell it to Brian. So
because I'm buying.
Because he's buying.
So, and if you buy a house with a realtor, you will hear about title insurance all day long. It's part of the fees, et cetera. And unless you're paying cash, if you're paying cash, you don't have to have title insurance. No. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying you don't have to. But if you're taking a mortgage, you have to have absolute title insurance.
And that is something that's done in the hood a lot up in Cleveland. A lot of these guys will pass properties around on quitclaim deeds without title insurance. And that's the same as, you can, if you buy a car and you finance it, you have to have collision insurance. If you pay cash for it, you don't. But do you want to drive around in your Ferrari with no insurance?
Right.
So, yeah, you are correct. And that's a bigger thing on cheaper houses than it is down here.
I'm sure. Absolutely. Ones. So, favorite type of investment? For whatever reason, either because it's easy or because it makes you the most money?
Profitable ones.
Okay. Which would be?
Well, the reason I like residential, and I know, I get people turn their nose up at me, especially at cocktail parties and stuff. You'll talk to a real estate guy, and it's like, what do you own? Well, I own 3 hotels. What do you do? So I'm in the real estate business. I do houses. Like, houses. Why would you do houses? And he's right. Hotels are big, and they're fun, they're exciting, and it's sexy to say that. But what they don't say is, one, usually these big buildings are all syndicated, and there's 30 partners, and that person has one little sliver. They own 10% of that watermelon, where I might own my whole grape, at that point. Right. But houses, for a couple reasons, I like. The first thing is the house seller, and I'm not by any means, don't think this is I'm taking advantage of anyone, but you're not dealing with a super sophisticated individual that's trying to milk every nickel out of it. They're trying to get their problem solved. That's it. If they're selling me a house, it's because I'm offering a quick, easy solution. It might be a Florida house that, you know, they've already failed 2 or 3 inspections and people keep walking away from the contract and they've already been transferred to Denver and they have to go and they just want to check. And I'm okay with the termites. I'm okay that the roof is old, so old they can't get insurance anymore. Here's a check, you go, your mortgage is paid off, you have your moving expenses, and we're done. So I suit a purpose. So I like it because of that.
Right.
The second reason I like it is they're easy to finance. If I had to pull money, it's easy. When you go to get a loan on a strip center or a mall or an office building, it's a lot of work, a lot of red tape. They're really, really going forensic on you to give you that loan. House loans aren't that tough. It's easy to get private money. It's easy to get bank money. And also, it's easy to find buyers for them.
All right. Way easier.
Way easier. People, because your average person, there's not a lot of TV shows out there, flip this strip center. But everyone wants to buy a house. Everybody has the dreams of they buy a property and they get to fix it up and paint it and flip it and stuff.
Right.
And they all usually have enough money in their 401k. They have enough financial wherewithal. They can go in their local bank and get a loan for the rest.
And don't you feel housing is a need?
It's a need. It's easy.
A hotel's not. I mean, that's easily expendable. I mean, that's the first thing to go.
And yeah, exactly. There's always, I've never been in a neighborhood, well, I can't say never, but rarely you're in a neighborhood that's completely vacant. There's always houses that are transferring and going back and forth.
Right.
And just putting yourself in the middle is a good place to be. So that's why I personally like houses, and that's why I'm Rob the house guy and not just Rob the real estate guy.
So when you come, houses, what type of houses? Flipping houses? Renting them? How many rentals do you have? How many flips do you have?
Only rentals I have are properties I haven't sold yet. Everything's for sale.
Oh, okay.
Everything's for sale.
Right,
we'll have umpteen at one time and stuff, but they're all selling. So right now I have to go back and look exactly what I have in my inventory. But it's changing every day. But usually what I try to do is I try to have
That's a baller when he has to go back and look at his inventory to see what rentals he wants to sell.
Actually, it's depressing because if I have a bunch, that means I'm not doing my job well. So if I have a lot of stuff sitting there that's not in contract or in negotiations, because a lot of times I'll be in negotiations and I'm already talking to somebody about it. So it's like I'm not pushing that one as hard anymore because I've already got a guy that I'm talking to on it.
Right. Your flips going?
Like buy, fix, sell, retail?
Buy, fix, sell.
Retail?
What do you mean retail?
Well, there's retail and wholesale.
Retail.
So if I sell to a lot of investors.
So hold on a second. I know what wholesaling is, but do you mean tell me you buy a house in disrepair, fix it up, and then wholesale it?
Well, here's exactly the deal I have right now. So I just closed one this week.
Okay.
We bought it, actually bought from a wholesaler. The wholesaler came in, he bought it. It didn't hit the market really yet. It came onto my radar, and I looked at pictures, I looked at leases. I know the street very well. I've owned stuff around there. I said, worked out a deal with him. I ended up buying it for $50,000. I said, I want $50,000. But that's it. My 50 is all in. I take the tax prorations. I take the rent credits. I take the security deposit if there's one. But you're paying all the closing costs out of you. If you agree to pay closing costs for the seller, then you're going to pay those closing costs out of the money you're making. I'm not paying them. I just net 50. We agreed to that. I closed it in like 3 days because title was already back. Maybe 2 days it came back.
Wow.
So I think I learned on a Wednesday, and by Friday I was closed. So it was a very, very fast close. Again, why people deal with me. That's why wholesalers bring me stuff.
Right.
I closed fast. I got him paid. He made payroll that week.
That's a very good point. I'm just going to stop real quick. Is make it easy. Anything you're doing in life, if you're trying to get something from somebody else, make it easy to get it. If you make it complicated, they're gonna go to the next person that makes it easy on them. So white glove treatment, so to speak, it all goes along the same lines of good customer service, which is like the basis of any business. Just give good customer service.
Exactly. I had a guy tell me one time. He said the only 3 keys to success. He said, be good at what you do. Like understand exactly what the heck you're doing. Second, be reasonable on your pricing. Don't try to gouge everybody. Just be reasonable. Make your money, make your profit, but be reasonable. And third is be available. Answer your phone, answer your text. That's it. Just, answer an email. Just don't ghost people.
Communication is so big.
Yeah. The ghosting people. I have guys I deal with. I'll be in the middle of a deal, and they just ghost me.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of buying a property from these wholesalers, and they ghost me. They just don't call me back. And then a week later, they go, hey, Rob, how's the closing going? And I go, I gave up on it. I just threw it on the side. You're not calling me back. I'm trying to ask you about getting into the property. And I go, he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I got busy. Well, I'm trying to buy this thing. Don't get too busy. Hand the phone to your wife for her to answer me or something. Just somebody tell the person I'm sending a guy over there to walk through it. So the ghosting is bad. So we're going off track here.
We're talking about flipping wholesales.
The flipping wholesale. So this house we bought for $50,000. This particular property should be rented out about $1,000 a month. It's rented for $600 a month.
Wow.
It is outdated, but well kept and clean and organized. The tenants have been there for 20 years. a 20-year tenant in a house that's not falling down, it's just outdated, and they are scared to death that we're going to move them. So they probably would pay a little bit more money,
right.
But whether they would or they wouldn't or whatever, I'm just putting it out there at $69,900. Now, there are comparables if I were to move them out of there and put some lipstick on there. So there's comparables of 106 in this neighborhood. So I could go with the 106. But the 106, by the time you pay your realtor and you pay your, all the inspection junk where they're going to beat me up on everything else, it's going to get down there a little bit. So I'll blow it out at $69,900. I'll show my investor, look, the comp's at 106. You can keep the people, move the people, whatever you want to do. And then I'll just make myself my 20, but I'll pay my agent. Well, this is the whole topic of this. We haven't got to it yet.
That's all right. Yeah.
It's all about the collaboration, not the competition. So my agent didn't cold call me saying, Rob, can I have this listing? I called him and said, hey, man, we're going to list this. You're going to be the guy. You can have both sides. I'm not trying to nickel and dime you a dollar because I want you to do your job. I'm making money. You make money.
I love that attitude.
Yeah, it's like, why do you want people down, especially your agent saying, well, you do a reduced commission. Why? Here's $1,000 bonus on that commission. Just make more money. Just go do your job. Right. I'm making money. You make money. Let's just get it done. Mind-boggling people. And I can't tell you the stories I've talked to buying a house from someone, and they tell me how much their realtor sucked. And he goes, and I told him all I'm giving him is 1%, and that's it. And, the guy just became unresponsive. Really? I can't imagine why.
So I showed a listing for sale by owner back in Bethel Park in Pittsburgh, and the for sale by owner asked me for feedback, and his commission was like 1.2%. And I said, I'm going to give you a little free advice here. I said, I don't mean to sound like a dick, but, we're not that tough of a market where we got to take 1% on a $150,000 house. And I said, you got a much better chance of going market value of 3.5%, which is really peanuts if you think about it, if you do the math.
Oh, yeah. And after he split that with his broker.
And actually, I'm glad you brought up that example, because I was going to ask you, what price point do you operate in? So you work at all price points, still under 100,000? Are those bread and butter ones easy to do?
Well, I can tell you, I operate, if you ask me, like, where's my sweet spot?
Yeah.
I am definitely the 150 and down category.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's more Walmarts than Tiffany's.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's just a ton of that. There's easy to buy, easy to sell, easy to finance, just ease. Like you said, the volume. Now, I have a little list that is my swing for the fences list. And, it's a non-disclosure and everything else, but I'm leaving here and I'm looking at one in Miami we're looking at that I'll need binoculars to see the top of it. So we're working on that. But I'm involved with a bunch of people on it.
Right. Is it commercial?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
It's commercial. It's a huge building. It's huge, and it's a monstrous deal. And so is that my wheelhouse? No. I mean, can I do stuff like this? Yeah, numbers are numbers.
Right.
But I wouldn't call myself, Rob the Miami guy, because I'm doing one down here. Not yet.
Not yet.
But so yeah, I'll do anything. I'll look at anything if I can look at it and I see opportunity. Yeah.
Okay.
But houses are just, again, they're always going to be here.
I always thought I always stayed away from commercial because it's so up and down. I mean, these guys down here are selling $100 million hotels and everything else. But, as soon as the market turns, those guys they go from Ferrari to Ford or Fiat. Yeah. Well, it's even lower, Kia. I don't even know. You know what I mean? And I like that, even though we don't have 9-to-5 jobs and it's kind of risky, and that's when people stay in 9-to-5 jobs because they got a paycheck. I feel like residential real estate is a 9-to-5 job. Like, I know I can keep working hard because housing is always going to be needed in some format. Renting, owning, something.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. And that's going back to like the sophistication level too. You're not going to walk into one of these big buildings and the guy has no idea what he has. He has enough investors throwing money at him and everything else. Unless it's a really down market, then he's bleeding, and then you're just like basically taking his cancer from him.
Right.
Saying, oh yeah, you're drowning. How about I give it a try? But that's why houses are just great, because in the down market, even when the 07-08 crash hit, if you're not selling it, it's kind of like a stock. They always have value in the rents.
Right.
Always. If you're in a house like this exact house, it's $50,000. It has comps of 106. It's rented to the same tenant for 20 years. That's on disability government assistance. So they can always pay their $600 a month. If that house falls apart, the market crashes, and now it's worth $10,000, still pulling $600 a month.
Wow.
Still getting that $600 a month. It doesn't matter. And they're not going anywhere. And honestly, people over profits, I will do everything I can to leave them intact in that house and not get their rent raised to an uncomfortable portion. Because for me or you or anyone else, it's just another deal for them. This is their life. This is where they've had their kids over, their grandkids over. Just because they didn't plan well in life and they're stuck in a rental situation, I don't want to penalize them for that.
And you'd rather make some money than have them not pay at all and trash the place. And you want to be able to sleep at night. I mean, it's like the opposite of a slumlord.
Exactly. The big play would be to move them out, clean it up, and just retail it at 106. So I can make an extra $15,000-$20,000, but now they're displaced. The rental market is so tight in Cleveland. I'm sure it's in Pittsburgh right now too.
Super.
It is so tight.
Even in Miami.
Yeah. It's crazy down here. And that's another story I'll have in a minute about what this market's doing. But it's just nuts. I mean, I just don't want to put someone in that bad a situation.
Right. So we're getting low on time. Let's hit a couple topics you definitely want to cover. One thing I always love is, and you put in there, and that is, what's one mistake you made? Either you would go back and tell Rob in the 90s, watch out for this. Like if I have a flipper investor of any side, any other side, they're just getting started in their career. Maybe one or two things that you would like some piece of advice as an expert. What would you give them?
I guess one of the first ones would be just kind of, when I go back to my whole thing, the collaboration over competition. And I was, 13 houses deep when I finally found that real estate investors group. And that's what led me to get involved with other real estate groups of mine in my area and become the president of them and keep going up to bring like-minded individuals together. And that's where the global REIA network is so powerful, because it's guys like you and me and everyone else. They're just talking just really heart to heart about what's the real industry standard, what's going on, where do you see this market going, where are you getting your money these days, how much are you paying your private lenders? I mean, I paid mine too many points, I gotta drop a couple points off mine. And just really sharing, I need an electrician or whatever I might need. And when I got started, that wasn't even really hardly available. I mean, I didn't have the internet. I mean, it probably existed. I just didn't have it. I mean, I didn't have email. I was using a roll paper fax machine, and cell phones were still $1 a minute or something to use. So it was very, very difficult. There weren't a lot of me's, but now there's a million of us out there flipping houses and doing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And to come to these real estate investment meetings and get together with other people and just collaborate, the amount of work and business you can do, because it's real. And this is no disrespect to the guys selling their weekend courses and everything else, because I know all of you out there. It's just different when you're actually, if anybody is making more than 10% of their income from selling information, it's the wrong mentor. They should not make more than 10% of their money off of selling you a course on how to make that business work. They should be in the trenches, because, as you know, it changes it's changing weekly now, just about the things. And you got to have your finger on the pulse and know what's going on. So my advice, get involved early before you even have one house with networking with other like-minded individuals, realtors that are true realtors, like Brian, that's really in the game 100% and doing this full time, and he's not well, I'm a school teacher and I got my license too. It's no, this is what he does day in, day out, not in one market, but two markets. Eats, breathes, drinks, sleeps this stuff, sits in studios and talks about this stuff. It is, would you want a part-time heart surgeon?
Said it before. Stick my sign in your chest.
Yes, exactly. Look at this. I did the surgery.
And that's good advice, and that's what I always give realtors that ask me before they become realtors or they're just struggling, whatever. And I said, get on with a team that has already made the mistakes, which is equal to joining a REIA. Hire a coach unless you can't afford one. Call up a realtor like me, call up a Rob, take us to lunch, take us to dinner, take us to coffee. We enjoy telling you about the mistakes that we've made. And I go to listing appointments all the time. I tell the sellers, the way we market your listing is changing weekly. Like you just said, I mean, there are so many different opportunities out there and the knowledge is everywhere. So back when him and I started in real estate, there was no YouTube.
No.
There was no internet for a while, right? I used to go to Home Depot and Lowe's and they had books on how to tile. And I took the tile classes. And that's how you learn. So you guys nowadays watching out there have, do your due diligence, do your research. If you have any problems, any struggle on where to find the information, all my information is going to be tagged wherever you're watching this, and I'll get robbed as well. Shoot us a message. If you're in Wisconsin, Florida, Cleveland, Canada, we don't care. We have a spider web of a network. We'll be able to get you to the right person. It's all about, if you're going to get out there and do what we do, we want to make sure you're doing it correctly. You're not hurting, number one, the public. And number two, you're not hurting yourself either financially or whatever. So with that, my friend, I'm going to thank you. That was amazing.
Hey, let me say one last thing before we get out of here.
Hit it.
And this is kind of one last piece of advice that I would say. A lot of times, and this holds true whether you're listing a $1 million house in Miami or you're going to buy your first investment property in any town USA. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody is always going to say, oh, I've got this guy, I've got this gal. They can help you. They got this. You need to call my friend. That's all good. But remember, this is probably one of the biggest investments you're ever going to be involved in, buying or selling or doing something.
Right.
And if you don't think that I know every realtor in the world, not in the world, but in my world, they're all realtors, they're all investors. But I handpick who I work with based on their skill set and their knowledge and knowing exactly what they're doing. Just because I have an attorney that might be an amazing real estate attorney, I wouldn't go to him for any other type of law, for some sort of like personal injury.
Right.
If I'm going to need brain surgery, I'm not going to call my buddy that's a dentist just because, well, he kind of went to med school too. No, you want to have that expert in that area. So although referrals are nice, it's always better to go ahead and do your due diligence and maybe make a new connection that you can refer out next time. So that's probably the best advice I can leave someone with.
I love that. Cool. Awesome. Thanks again, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me on here.
Awesome.
Remember, nothing works unless you do.
That's for sure.